This was in December, and I was getting ready for bed, and I felt a lump. It was a very obvious lump, and I screamed, and then I called T. I said, T, I felt something. You need to come and check this out. And we were in the wardrobe in our room, and he said, oh, you need to have it checked. Now, I had been scheduled for a jaw surgery. You know, at the time, that was the most important thing that was happening. It's a phrase that I came across, and that when you have poor health, or when there's something wrong with your health, everything comes into, you know, alignment. You know, everything comes into context in the scheme of things happening in your life. So he said, oh, you need to have this checked. And then I'm thinking, I've got this dental thing. At the time, that seemed like the most important thing. So we came out from the wardrobe, and my daughter was underneath our bed. And I found her and I said, go back to your room. And then she came back and said, Mommy. I said, what? She said, did you say you found a lump on your breast? And as a mom, quick thinking mom, African mom, I said, oh, no. I was just saying that I hadn't taught you how to check your breast. And I'm going to do that at some point. She said, oh, thank God, because I thought I heard you say there was a lump on your breast. Oh, no, nothing like that. So I then went to the doctors. In the UK, when you go to the GP and a lump is found, they have to see you at the breast care unit within a week. That's the normal progression. They have to see you. So I went on to the breast care unit, and then I had a mammogram. I hadn't had a mammogram up until then. I think I was coming into being eligible to have one done. So I hadn't had one. So I went in with friends, because we, as moms, after you drop off your children, you have a coffee morning, you know. So I was supposed to be having a coffee morning, and I said, oh, don't worry, it's a quick appointment. Just follow me. I'll quickly do this, and then we go off to have this coffee morning. I had the mammogram. The lady says, oh, you know, you have to stay behind because you need to see the consultant. So as they start to check things, then they progress you at the breast care unit. So I went to see the consultant. He says, no, I'm not liking the size. I'm not liking the way it looks. You need to have a biopsy. I'm like, now? And then they bring up the syringe, and I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, am I not going to go under any form of anesthesia before you do this? He said, oh, no, it shouldn't hurt. You should just hear the sound. So I had the biopsy, and I was told to come in 10 days for the result. And I remember we were supposed to be having a dinner party, a ladies' dinner party. I've got the picture here with a friend in this room. And the morning of that dinner party, I got a call from the hospital saying that open the door. Don't come in 10 days. You need to come in first thing tomorrow.
Let me see if you can put on that laptop.
During that period, I had been studying a series on faith. And I was feeling like a prayer warrior. And I told myself, I said, this is the test, you know, the test I've been reading about in this series. This has to be that test. So I need to, this is where I get to test that faith. So I remember going for this dinner party, and I told my friend, I said, this is what the hospital has said, that I should come tomorrow morning. And I tried to enjoy myself. But of course, it was still at the back of my mind. I'm going, if the hospital calls you and tells you, come in, don't come in next week. You need to come in first thing tomorrow morning. And it gets worse. It says, don't come in alone. Come with your husband. So I told her, I said, I didn't tell Tayo, they said, come with your husband. I said, oh, so I'm just going to go in tomorrow. It'll be fine. He said, oh, if you want me to. I said, no, I don't need you to go. I just need you to go to work. I'm going to go. And my friend wanted to go with me, but miscommunication. She didn't understand that I expected her to come with me. And then on my way, another friend stopped me on the way. Now, I was wanting to be in this zone of faith, and I did not want anybody to derail me. So I went with this other friend, and I told her, whilst we were parking at the hospital, that I was just going for a blood test upstairs. So I left her in the car park, and then I went upstairs. And when I got upstairs, the doctor says, "Did you come in alone?" I said, "Yes." He said, "But I told you not to come in alone." I said, "I'm sure I'm fine." And then he proceeded to give me the results. The only thing I heard him say at this appointment was cancerous. And then I said, "What does that mean?" And everything else I did not hear. Now, I don't know if some of you remember a Macmillan, I think it's Macmillan advert, where it shows people falling, like they're drowning. It brought that advert into context. I could understand that advert perfectly, because everything else he said at that appointment, I did not hear. I did not hear anything. I did not ask any questions. I just remember the breast care nurse took me into a room, and this is a breast care unit. So I'm thinking, you might as well have put cancer on my forehead, because everybody sitting waiting for an appointment already knew, this one's got the bad news, you know. And then I'm in this room, I'm shoved a lot of documents, just a lot of information overload. I did not hear anything. There was nothing. And then I got to the car park. And this friend said, "Oh, why did you?" She had slept off. She said, "What sort of blood test was that? Why did you stay so long?" I said, "I'm not going to be able to drive." I drove her there. I said, "I'm not going to be able to drive. Can you drive?" She said, "What happened?" I said, "Just drive. We just need to get out of this hospital right now. Just drive." And then she drove. And then as we're going home, I said, "I need you to park on the side of it. Just park." And then I told her, I said, "This is what he said." She said, "What?" And while I was telling her, Tayo calls. And Tayo says, "How was the appointment?" I said, "Oh, everything was perfect, nothing to worry about. Just come home. It's nothing, no big deal." And then he was like, "Oh, yeah, thank God, blah, blah, blah." And my friend said, "I'm afraid of you." I said, "No. He's at work. I don't know what he's doing. I cannot tell him. He works outside Bedford. I need to wait for him to get home." And then my mom was visiting. So my mom was in my house. So Tayo comes back. I wait for him to finish dinner. And then he goes up into the room. And then I go to meet him in the room, I shut the door. And then I said, "Tayo, this is what the doctor says." Now, being an engineer, the first thing Tayo says is he's asking me questions after questions. "What is this?" "I don't know." "What is this?" "I don't know." "What did they say is this?" "I don't know." "Then what did you ask them?" "I asked them nothing." And for the first time in the years that I have known Tayo, I could read fear. All I could see in his eyes was fear. He was afraid. So we booked another appointment to go to the doctor. Now, this time armed with our own questions. And so we went back, and then we were furnished with more information. I was to have a lumpectomy to take out the lump, and I was to have a biopsy on my lymph nodes to check if the cancer had spread to the lymph nodes. I chose not to tell my mom, who was visiting. At this time, we hadn't shared with the children, so the children were not aware. And then I had the lumpectomy, and my mom was still in my house. So we drove off like it was nothing. I just told her, I said, "Oh, I felt a lump." And they were going to do a biopsy. She was like, "Oh, it's nothing." That, she said she has a lump somewhere. She had a friend. I was like, "Oh, no, I'm sure it's nothing." So I drove out. I was going to have surgery, by the way. Drove out from the house. And Tayo's all the while is saying, "You need to tell her." I said, "No, it's my journey. I choose when I want to share. Because for me during that period, it was important to stay focused on what I was going through. I needed it, not to be affected by other people's emotions. I remember sharing only with a few people. So I went on and I did the lumpectomy. And thankfully, we're in the UK. It was a day. I went in the morning and I was back home in the evening. And my mom is saying, I understand they've taken this, biopsy, but the dressing is very extensive. So, the way they do things here. And then she's saying, there was this one on the side. I said, it's just a biopsy. And we got the results, I think about 3 weeks, later. And the results showed that the cancer had spread to my lymph nodes. So it became stage 3. At this point, I called my mom. Again, I told her, everything is fine, results have come, and it's okay. As soon as I dropped, I looked at her and I said, I'm not doing this with you anymore. It's time to share. And the children need to be aware. We had medical insurance, thankfully. Bupa were very, very good. They shared booklets, information booklets with the children. My mom's got cancer. It's not my fault. I think that was the title. And it detailed everything the children should know, how they can support. And, because one of the things that sometimes we overlook in this journey is how the journey affects not just the immediate family, but also friends and extended family as well. Because whilst the actual physical journey is for the patient, a lot of people are also affected by the journey. So I then called my mom back and I told her, I said, actually, remember when you were in the UK the last time? I said, it wasn't a biopsy. I'd had the biopsy earlier. This is what the diagnosis is. And the first thing my mom said, my mom is a Nigerian. The first thing my mom said was, oh my God, do you want to go to India? And I told her, I said, I'm in the UK. Why would I want to go to India? And I dropped the phone. And my dad and my mom planned their journey to come into the UK. I believe in every journey, there is that one thing where no matter what you're going through, somebody else has got it worse than you, 1. 2, in all my journey, I look back now and I can see that I was really blessed. There were certain things that I enjoyed in the journey. So my parents came in, and then there was COVID and the shutdown, which meant they were able to stay with me for the period of that extended treatment, which was a blessing, without any repercussion to their visiting, because it was extended for everyone. We chose to take the children out of school before the lockdown because I also got a letter from the NHS during that period. And it was a letter that stated there is COVID-19. It was given the option. I'd started, I'd had a second surgery. I'd taken out an axillary clearance, which means that I'd taken out all the lymph nodes underneath my left arm. And I had then started chemotherapy. It was when we got the letter stated there was COVID-19. If you get the virus, you're unlikely to survive. And it was basically choose. Do you want to stop the chemo or do you want to continue? However, if you continue, these are the risks and they are solely yours. I'm going to digress a little. Before I started the chemo, now the NHS runs series of experiments. They do a lot of surveys because the treatments that you're going to have as a breast cancer patient relies largely on the doctor who is treating you. That's why sometimes you find that a lot of women have very different treatment plans. The chemo in itself are different cocktails. They're a combination of several medications. So I was given the option to join this experiment, I would call it. And in that experiment, it was skip chemo and then go on to radiotherapy and then medication. And the idea is they collect data to see if, you're likely to get it down the line or if it's necessary at all. I then, I used to meet some friends, a group of friends at breakfast. And I remember we were all chatty. It was nice to catch up. And I then told them, I said, okay, I've come to a decision because there are lots of emotions going on. I myself had fear. I didn't want to. I then told them, I said, I've made a decision. I'm not going to be having chemo. I'm going to just do the radiotherapy and move on. I remember one particular friend's expression. Nobody said that we were 5 friends. Nobody said anything at that breakfast after I made that statement. And the rest of the breakfast was in silence. And I left. I then asked Tyre, I said, Tyre, what do you think? I don't really want to do this. And Tyre says, I remember what he said. He said, sweetheart, this is one decision that I'm not going to be able to make for you, but I will support you whatever decision you make. At the time, now I can look back and appreciate that. At the time, I thought, you slimy. I thought, how dare you? But, I chose, then another friend called. She had left a voicemail on my phone. It was 30 minutes long, and she was wailing on this phone. Now, she'd lost a friend a few months prior, and she was on about, we're going to fight it. We're going to give it everything we've got. I'm not going to take that. You're going to do every single thing they ask you to do. And we went to the doctors. Tyre says, let's go to the doctors and ask them again. So I remember asking the doctor, what do you think? And he kept on using the phrase, in theory, you should be fine. I kept on asking him, saying, in theory, you should be okay. I said, no, I'm asking you, if I don't do it and I go on to the other treatments, would it capture, the cancer cells? He says, in theory, it should. And we decided that we would go for chemo. When you do the survey, they pick what treatments you want for you. It's like a ballot. You pick a number and then they just tell you, okay, this is what, because it has to be randomized, right? So I told them, I said, go ahead, pick one. And what I picked was, don't do chemo. But of course, after we made the decision, we told them, you know what, your survey can go to the back burner. Chemo, I am going to do it. But they still asked to pick up the data from my treatments and how I'm getting on, which is fine. I was to be having 2 different types of chemo over a few months. And so I had 2 surgeries, and then I started chemo treatments. During that period, I remember I had a lot of emotions. Now, I as a mom, I used to do a lot of things for the children. I was the sort of mom who I would launder their clothes, I would iron, and I remember there were times I would just open my eyes. They were going to school. I'm thinking all through the day, my God, did you see that in the house? It's so rumpled. And Tyre couldn't even iron it. Those were the things I used to think about. They were getting on fine without me. life was moving on. Life wasn't stopping. My son would come home like, oh my God, did you see Auntie so brought food? Ah, mommy, oh my God, if this is how it is, you should be seeing. Those sort of things, I'm thinking there were lots and lots of, I would wake up and someone sent me flowers. And also during that period, I found a coach online who was into mental health, just reading books like as you think it's, as a man thinketh, so is he, those sort of books. I had my parents in the house, so I didn't think about nutrition. My mom came with all sorts of concussion. I remember drinking jute leaves, ewedu, raw. She would cook it. She says they said it cleans the body. I was licking all sorts of terrible herbs, everything she knew. If somebody mentioned it, it was in my house, those sort of things. My dad was there with the children. The children were having online classes because by this time, shutdown had now caught up with them because we had taken them out of school prior to the school shutting down. It was a time where, COVID was a time where the community in itself came together. I had a church in my backyard who would come and pick up my medication and just drop it at my door. One of the things I also assessed during this period was support. Now, our children were privately educated. So one of the things I used to think about was, how would we cope financially? And one of the reality, honestly, was, what if I go? How would they cope? I didn't say it out, but I certainly thought it. Now, there are a lot of resources. I won't go into it today, but there are lots of bodies, NGOs, resources that help with finances. And there are a lot of government benefits as well that one can access. Some I was eligible for, some I wasn't, but they're there. So anybody knowing anyone going through this sort of journey or any serious illness, there are certainly financial resources available in this country. There were lots of bodies as well who, ahead of my chemo treatments, sent me a chemo pack with a lot of things that I would, that I didn't even think about having, that I would need, going through chemo. And again, the journey was very personal because, of course, COVID had come. Only patients were allowed in the hospital, which meant I would be dropped at the hospital and I would go in on my own. And everybody in the chemo suite would be patients only. I remember seeing, now it was a time where I was very particular about people who knew. I remember seeing somebody at the suite and I was playing hide and seek. I was playing hide and seek with this person and I told myself, I said, okay, when I'm done with my journey, I would then reach out to say, I did see you, and how are you getting on? I'll come back, please pause that particular topic for a while. I'll come back to this patient. And moving on from chemo, I remember that as the first set of chemo medication, I tolerated better. And that one came with some symptoms with hair loss. The second one, however, I found was a bit more brutal with my body. I felt really ravaged. I felt exhausted. The first one, not so much tired, but more physical changes. The second one was really brutal. And I remember I wanted to stop. And I was crying. And I told Taya, said, I've done enough. I just want to stop. I'm done. And he was encouraging. I think at the time I had 2 more sessions, just 2. And at this time, it was getting harder and harder for the hospital, for my white blood cells to be at the level they needed it to be able to get into the next treatment. So I was having to do more, eat more. My mom, was of the belief, drink more this, it would help, I was hearing also some ugu, poro, those sort of things, which is the red leaves that they use for watching. So chemo treatment finished. My daughter came home. I remember she asked me once, she said, is it okay if I tell my friend? Something like that, so along those lines. Of course, that is her way of telling me, I have told everybody, And I'm thinking the journey is different for everyone. It's okay. For my son, however, the school were very supportive. They asked if it was okay to reach out to him and have another child talk to him. Now, my son wasn't at a stage where he really understood. And I told them, no, he doesn't need that kind of support. Just leave him. In the state he's in now, he's okay. He was, the only thing he asked, I remember when we told him was, are you going to lose your hair? And we said, that's a possibility. And that was the only concern he had. My daughter, however, was very different. She was more aware of what was going on. And she was going off to boarding school in Scotland. So it wasn't a game for her. It wasn't the right timing. Something was happening. She, I know, would have read. She knows what the consequences could be, and she didn't want to be away. Chemotherapy finished, and then I moved on to radiotherapy. Radiotherapy was in Cambridge. And again, I was being picked up. There's a body that comes solely run by volunteers. Again, COVID had hit, so I was being chauffeured like a private hire. I was the only one in the car. Prior, it would be 2-3 people sharing the car, but I was the only one in the car. I would be picked up at my house, driven from my appointment, picked up at my appointment, and brought back home. So it was an amazing service. Again, if anyone has time, it's, I know Sis put on the computer, on the screen earlier, how can you support? These are ways that the charity is solely run by volunteers. People who have, in one way or the other, maybe not, affected by cancer. So finished radiotherapy, and again, the world was shut down. The world was starting to wake up again. Radiotherapy done. I was at a stage where the kids were slightly older. They were already moving on without mommy. They were able to get themselves ready. A lot of things that I thought were things that made me me were things that I didn't need to do anymore. Now, that was a different phase in the journey. This was a new phase. This was a phase where I needed to find me again. I felt very, very lost. I felt different. I felt like I changed. And the more I tried, the more I felt lost. I just couldn't find me. The things that interested me, I run a business. Getting that interest was really hard. Waking up and doing the things that I would previously do was really, really hard. It just felt like the world had moved on and I remained where I was prior to all the treatments. And in desperation to find something relevant to do, one of the things that spoke to me at the time was, I'm a nurse now, so I understand. At the time, going into the chemo suite and people, oh, Ife, you're here, how are you feeling? And I used to think, oh, they know me. Well, now I know they don't. Of course, they've seen my name on the system. They've seen my name on the system. At the time, I thought, it's so personal. And I would talk to them like, oh, hi, this. And I was thinking, oh, I can't remember this nurse's name. And I'm thinking, let me quickly read the name back before they come to me. But you see, those sort of things at the time were very important to me. And I thought, okay, during this journey, I'll go into nursing. And it was a desperation to feeling relevant again. I mean, thankfully, I am a nurse today. But in hindsight, not that I wouldn't be a nurse today, but now I know that it was on a rebound that I did all those things, you know. Today, the journey is daily. I heard Mrs. Larry Lassisi's talk last month, and I could relate with a lot of things that she was saying. Why did I feel inspired to share? Because sometimes when you're going through a journey, you can feel very lonely and very down. And you tend to believe that it's just you. Is it? Because sometimes I'm not able to really tell. Is it physical? Is it mental? Am I really feeling, because the medication takes a toll, and not just the chemo and the radiotherapy, but the medication after. And she talked about her struggles and, you know, physical struggles, mental health struggles. And I could relate with that. That actually, when I look back, one of the things, I mean, the lessons that I've learned through my own journey is your hype squad is very important. You know, the support is really important. The journey in itself is a very dark and lonely one to begin with. But when you have the support of people, I have friends in this room who would attest to the fact that on some level, I am not the same person I was prior to treatment. But I know that I have their support. I know that, you know, I'm blessed with a man who doesn't mind, you know, you being there, encouraging. And if you're going through something, we're going through it. He's not judgmental. I think I've also learned to be very tolerating. I'm one of those who would call someone, and then I'm calling, I'm thinking, oh, she's not picking. And I start to think of all sorts of reasons why. But I went through a phase where I would literally have my phone ring and I can't talk. I really can't pick up that call. I'm not in the mental space to have that chat. I'm just not able to talk. How can we support? We can support by volunteering. We can support by being non-judgmental. Everybody's journey is different. How they react emotion-wise, change physical, mentally to their journey is validated. Sis said earlier, everybody's emotions are valid. I've been in a space where somebody who's going through her journey, who's had a mastectomy, is very angry. Her emotion is valid. That is the space she's in, and it's okay. You know, we can be more tolerant, and not just for patients going through cancer or have gone through cancer, any serious illness. It really is, apart from a physical battle, it's very much a mental battle. It's mental because they're who they are. It's the very nature of, for me, everything that made me changed. I was the one who knew the children's classes, had meetings with the teachers, and the roles were reversed. I came out and honestly, I would mentally calculate their age so that I could tell you the year they were in school. I couldn't just tell you they're in year this or year that. I would mentally have to calculate, you know. All of a sudden, Tayo was the one the teachers were relating with. On some level, it was good. But then, the emotions I was going through in that period was, I'm the one that should be doing that, but I wasn't in the state to do that. You know, so it's going through all these emotions and navigating, and still navigating because it's still a journey. You know, it's still a journey. And moving on from treatments, so I mentioned that I've had axillary clearance, and what that means is I don't have lymph nodes under my left arm. But what that means is lymph nodes are what drains fluid, which means I have a lymphedema on my left arm. So I'm attending lymphedema clinic. I'm on a medication. Some of the thrivers here would know, and wake up with physical pain because my joints are aching. You know, and the medication themselves have a lot of side effects. A lot of side effects. So it's this, and I thank the Pink Smile for the platform, is very much being made aware, because with information comes power, education, so that we're able to pass on that learning, that education. It may just be one way or the other, we know somebody who's gone through the journey. Because now I think it's 1 in every 4 is the statistics. I'm not talking about just breast cancer, I'm talking about cancer generally, you know, as we move on. I think it's nice that, you know, family members too would be involved, because, and friends. So now closing. Remember the friend I said I saw at the chemo suite? I then needed painting. He's a painter and decorator. Painting and decorating. So I called the number and we booked him to come in. And so he comes in. His son comes in. And I'm like, where's your dad? You know. And I was just about to tell him I saw his dad. He says, oh, that's not. And I felt so bad. Because I remember where he was sitting and where I was. And the truth is, whilst the journey looks like it's the same, it's very different for everyone. So I wanted to mention Susan. Susan was actually one of my chemo nurses. And she's a friend now. Oh. So it's just, if anybody has, thank you. So if anybody has any questions, oh, no. Yes.
Thank you so much. I know that was massive for her to do.
Wow.
This is really first time she's sharing.
I
mean, sharing this is
to
make people aware. It's healing for her. It's encouraging the next person. As Lara, if you just give away another priority. Let's just give her encourage her to speak. We don't know who's listening to her now, who will be encouraged. And as you can see, it's a journey. She talked of lymphedema. That's why she wears this. This is a compression. What's it called now? It's called compression band. And because of lymphedema, so that place, you know, it's forever sort of like swelling, and she has to wear that all the time. So sometimes you might outside, why does she? So that's it. So it's just a journey, and it's just the awareness. She's talked about support. She's talked about family. Family is everything, and I just feel when we're going through this, it's really good to be there. But family is not only your blood, as you know, especially where we come from. You know, people are family. She talked about meetings that she's been. Some of us are in here. We call ourselves breakfast champions. We're here, you know, just to support. But she did say questions. Okay. 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 No.
Experience and that what it is up there, I think is that if that's yours, to say how the journey to and the way you have connected your family, your friends, and the hospital, and also even talking about the school. It has brought a lot of it makes one just realize that when people go through stuff or lived experiences, it's sometimes not just about that thing that they're going through. There's a lot more to that. And that's why community is important. That's why support is important. And obviously the fight. I'm also glad that you mentioned about every emotion being valid, because that is something that our community, as Africans, as Nigerians, as Yoruba, we don't respect.
Yes.
We don't respect other people's emotions. We think our emotions are more important. Or you don't know, I'm going through this, I'm going through that. No, you don't know what that other person is going through either. So I'm so glad that you shared this journey. I'm so glad that you showed your vulnerability as well, because that also shows that you are not just even in your pain. I'm glad that you're not at that point anymore. Even through that journey, you were still able to feel for someone else who isn't here anymore. So I believe that just brought things back again. And thank you so much. God bless you. Thank you.
And it's interesting. I was just looking now and it occurred to me. We're in a friendship group of 5 of us, and myself and herself got this diagnosis, and they were a massive support. So support system, I keep hammering on that. It really, really just helps. It helps you through these journeys, but yeah, you have to be in a place to be able to speak up. And I say to people, at this point in our life, it's really important for us to check down who are we surrounding ourselves with. It's amazing. Any other comment?
Thank you very much, Ibi. That was very, very encouraging. There's something you touched on when you don't want to share your story. That was my husband's story. And it took a lot of me because for over 5 months, we didn't even get any support. So it took a lot of me when I was going through this journey. But now that you've explained, because at that time I'm like, why? We can get all the support. I'm going through this as well. I'm doing this and that. But it was his journey. So the awareness, and that's what we can share with other people as well when they're going through and knowing that it's their journey. And that's what my husband used to say. I used to say as well, like I want to say because of my medication, but as at that time, because I'm next to him, I'm going through, I'm dealing with the children, my child, I'm going to work, I'm doing it. It's like, it doesn't even feel for me at that time. So my business is valid as well, but it's a question of just the support as well, which I had as well. Just coming out to balance this out. So yeah, thank you very much.
Unfortunately, Sis lost her husband. Yeah, so and even in that, it's like what you just said, Sis. I knew her when I had my diagnosis. I didn't know her then. And she had lost her husband. But this woman, the support, even in her pain, it's amazing, And she just does that, though she went through that. So yeah, support system is key. I cannot stop saying it. Any other questions or whatever? Just to okay.
I'm just again, so yeah. And talking about support, because if I look at main support, you know, like, when I went to, I saw how. Yes, you know, I was a kid. And because before I had like my breakup, and I had a little operation, and if I look at the support, it was like completely different. And anytime I try to say thank you to you, how long is okay? I say, no, it's not okay. I have to say thank you. Thank you, sir. Because our experience not nice not to have a son. When you are going through something like this, this is how you will do everything. So when we talk about and we talk also positive support. Because people when they get that seat, it's like you don't have to go on that journey and positive. I say positive things. Even if they say no way out, just be there. Even if it's some things will be encourage them. Everything is involved. People without any diagnosis, they go to bed. And you know, and the following morning, they're not there. So what's the big deal? So they're giving support. So I find it's not like people, it's not them, just something small will happen. And then just go. So thank you so much for supporting. Sorry. And also
Thank you, Phil.
Yeah, I was just going to say that sometimes when you know somebody going through that as well, I mean, it's encouraged me actually to go and do mammogram for myself because I have had, as a teenager, a small lump under my breast. And so with that, when I got, the friend going through, I had to pick a go. And it's very painful actually, the screaming that they do, so it's not even a small journey. So that's what I to encourage me to explore.
And I think that's one major thing. Go for your screening. I think I'm guilty of those things. They send you smear test. The thing is there for 5 months. We're too busy. We can't be too busy because, as we say, early detection saves lives. It makes all the difference, and it's even better. We're not praying that anybody will have this. It's actually better that you know it's not there and you have peace. Last year, I had a lot of scares. I can't lie. I had to go for God knows how many scans last year. Oh, I think I'm feeling another lump somewhere. Oh, this happened, that happened. And I went. It doesn't matter how many times you go back to the hospital, but just keep going for the screening. You get that letter, go for screening. What is this?
I just want to appreciate Sister for sharing this. It's my point of view. It's a lot of family. I just want to thank my sister for being nice. Talking from the religion perspective, I just want to encourage her because this is the major problem. I am fortunate to lead the church, and I can tell you there is a place of prayer. Yeah, most of the people in our community that refuses to go through medical treatment, they decided to take it. Yes, God can heal. Miracles happen. So I don't know if there's anybody in this environment that have somebody or that is passing through it. There is a place of prayer, and God did not create the doctors, give them the medication for us not to use this the things that we are created for. So I just want to encourage us because two people that I lost refuses to take any medical treatment. So I just want to, the pain is not, I don't think they feel the pain the way we felt the pain. Yes, so I just want to encourage us while we are praying, please let's make use of all the support that are available.
And actually, on that note, I think one of the things in this vision is to be able to start going into churches in our community. And you said you lead a church, and we're actually going to be appealing to churches to allow us to come in and talk and encourage, people to do what they need to do, and also just to know that there is a support system they can tap into, for help, for support, because I know that they'll be feeling like they don't want to talk about it. And just to say, okay, Pink Smile is here. You can reach out. It doesn't even have to be everyone, because as Edie said, she knew the people she told, and that's still okay. You can make the decision. So maybe there will be people who need that type of support, and it's just to say we're here to help. So one of the plans and hope and prayer is that we'll be able to go into churches to be able to speak. And thank you, sis. Really, really thank you, because I think that if a lot of us are like you, we'll be able to save more lives. That's the truth. I was saying last time I went somewhere where after the talk I had, someone came to me and said he's still trying to forgive his sister's husband because of church. He didn't want the wife to speak and kept her in the house, and she passed. She couldn't go for treatment, he just said you can't go, literally locked her up in the house or something fine. And she passed, So we need to keep speaking out in churches. We need to speak out. You are also a hairdresser, sister. Macmillan actually has a group whereby they have flyers, they put it in hairdressers. Hairdressers are everyone's best friend, because you go in there and you speak your whole, life, there. So please invite us to church. Let's just talk to people on the level of, it's not been scaring people or trying to say something but just saying there's help, there's support. And Edie talked about something which, I went, and I hope that one day things will be able to do that. During radiotherapy, there's we have a charity in Bedford. It's amazing. Where radiotherapy, they come, they pick you from home, they take you to Adam Brooks, they wait for you, they come back. A lot of these people were older people, honestly, retired people, and they will pick you, they will wait. And we hope that one day in our Black community, we're going to have people who will be able to volunteer, and hopefully we'll pray to set that up. Even if we have enough people, it could just be once a month that you're doing it. It could just be once a month. Think about it. We have 30 people on the road, and one day you just come. They would pick like 4 of us up from home. We need to start doing that in this community. We need to start making that difference. We need to start supporting one another and really helping one another. In that space. Sis, your next one.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
My name is Susan Buki Adewale, as most of you know me here. I'm one of the senior chemotherapy nurses and also a research nurse in Genesis Hospital. I also work in Lisa Hospital. I've worked in Meeting Case Hospital for 10 years plus, and Bedford Hospital, where I met my lovely sister. I won't call her my patient now. She's a sister, Ibi, the guest speaker of today. Actually, I came for a visit and they put me on the spot. Well, I'm always ready. Yeah, we're talking about the C word, which everybody we all know, and something that we are very, very much afraid of. I'm sitting here today just to make everyone know the C word can be scary, but it's not the C word that kills. It's you yourself, how you take it and how you handle it, the place and the position you put yourself when you are being diagnosed. A lot of African people, when they, they are early diagnosed, instead of them making the move to do the necessary things, coming to us for us to take it on board, they don't want to come. Why? I don't want people to know. Oh, if they know I have cancer, it doesn't matter. It's all about you. They might be the next person. Cancer does not choose. Cancer does not select. Cancer can visit the palace today, King Charles. Cancer can go to America to hit their president. Cancer doesn't choose. So if it comes to your doorstep, take the necessary decision, the necessary steps. I've been looking after cancer patients almost 20 years now. And I can testify that a lot of them have survived it. She's a testimony. I have a lot of them that have platform in London, so many places. One was supposed to be here today, and she knows her also. She's a guest, she was her guest speaker, and also a writer now. She's writing a book about her journey. So I always say something that God brings certain things into your life to take you to the next level. But it depends on how you handle it before you will get to the level that God wants to take you to. I have patients when they come to the hospital, I allow them, fine, I know a lot of patients when they come, they always want me to be their nurses. I cannot be nurse to everybody. But if I know you are a Christian, I tend to devote my time, I come out of the office to look after you. Because one, a lot of our patients, the Black, community, I always make them to say, look, if you are a Christian, don't be afraid. Pray on your chemotherapy. Tell this drug that God has sent me to this place to have this treatment. And this chemo that I'm having is not just chemotherapy. It's not a toxic drug to my body, but it is the blood of Jesus that was shed on the cross of Calvary that says, I healed. If you do that, I say, look, we don't see God, but God sees us. If you believe, as you claim to be a Christian, I said, things will turn around for your good. I have a Ghanaian patient. She's a choir mistress. Now she writes a book. She's in Meeting Keynes. If you go to, on Facebook, you see her everywhere. She was my patient, but she was the one that I looked after. I knew that God really exists. She made my being a nurse to something else because she brought that faith into that unit, and we all saw it. Whenever I want to give her chemotherapy, she says, Susan, I know you are a Christian. Can we lay hands on this treatment? I will tell you, this girl was on palliative, but today, for the past how many years, she's still on here on earth, declaring the goodness of the Lord. So there is nothing God cannot do. I'm sitting here today to let every one of us that is here today to pass the message out there to Christians, pagans, that once they are being diagnosed, don't be scared, do the right thing. Don't die in silence. Anxiety, depression, mental health. People are, even before the cancer kills you, you're already killing yourself. People, going to take drugs, they want to die. Come on. We know cancer, it can kill. But do you know if yours is the one God have, allowed to happen for you to get to the next stage in life? Look at what she's doing. If she didn't pass through this stage, will she have this platform? No, come on now. Talk to yourself. Tell yourself that I know why I'm here is for a reason. And once you know that reason, you know the purpose, you will get to where you are going. People get cancer and they get healed. I'm telling you the truth. It's not everybody that dies of cancer. We should let that, go off our mind. Far back to 10 years ago, okay, because we did not have enough, research. We did not have enough certified medication. A lot of people were dying. But I'm telling you that the era we are now, people are getting cured of cancer. It's my field. I know what I'm talking about. Research has proven it. Once you go for early diagnosis, it's being seen early, there is nothing for you to be afraid of. It's only when you don't come up, you hide yourself there, you don't want to say anything. Another point I want to bring today is, please, let us always go for screening. If you don't know how to check your breast every day in the mornings, or once a week or twice a week, after this topic, you can see me out there. I will tell you the techniques. And if you want to know if it's cancerous, I am also ready to tell you which is cancerous and which is not cancerous. It's not all lumps, my love, that is cancerous, please. There are some lumps that are not cancerous. There are some lumps, sometimes it can be maybe during the day, you dislocated your, one of the vein, or there's a pop in the vein. It can also be lumpy. After a few days, it disappears. So don't kill yourself immediately. There's a lump somewhere, or I'm dead. No, please. Make sure it's, clinically proven that is cancerous before you can start having whatever fear. But I will also say, fear is not the most important thing. Deal with it. Fight it. It is when you fight that you win. If you don't fight, you lose. So it will come, but don't let it overwhelm you. So please, my lovely sisters and brothers, let us always go for screening. The men that are here, prostate is real. It is real. We get to a certain stage in life, prostate cancer will visit some of our men. Do go for screening and let it be detected. Don't drink agbo and think it's going to be fine. It's not going to be fine. You come to us, early detection will help you out. And our ladies, we know the commonest one is the breast one, which we've just talked about. We have the cervical cancer. You also have to be going for screening. If you have your cervical test, please do go for smear tests. And also, once medication is being prescribed for you, take it as it's being prescribed. Don't overlook it. If they say take 3 tablets a day, do it. Don't say, oh, please, I'm tired of this medication. No, if you don't take it properly, cancer can come back. We put people on medication after they've had their chemotherapy, we call it maintenance. You have to continue with your maintenance. It's just because we don't want those cancer cells to come back. And some of these cancer cells, they are very aggressive. When they come back the second time, they are like bulldogs. They spread quickly so that you don't capture them, So please, follow the rules and abide with them, and everything will be fine. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Thank you for that. I think the top tip here, go for your screening. If you do go for screening, they say there's something wrong. Don't sit at home. Go and get treated, because early detection is like, it's like a car. Again, I'll use a car. There's something wrong with your car. You don't go and get it repaired. It keeps getting worse and worse and worse. By the time you go in, you're now sorting out many different things. Early detection is no big deal. I've had quite a few men also share. I'm also going to bring the men, in terms of prostate, who've shared it, who now, unfortunately, prostate doesn't give you any sign. You have to go for that screening. And once it is seen, just get it sorted. I've had people, they've done it, no big deal, they get it sorted. The last person, there was someone else, even she was going through cancer. At the same time, her husband went for the prostate thing and it was high. And then her husband was also dealing with that. But today, they're both fine. It's important to go quickly. The longer these things stay, the worse it becomes. But by God's grace, our prayer is that keep talking and sharing, we wouldn't even have this issue. We will reduce the percentage of Black women, especially. The rate is high. The funny thing is that the rate at which Black women get it, if I'm right, it's not as high as the others, the white people, but Black women die from it more because it's caught late, because they don't go, or they go, it's not treated. So really, it shouldn't be so. It's out of the sphere, out of the myths, out of the stigmatization. And that's what we're just trying to say. So again, ways to help. Sis, I think I'll really connect with you. So all the people that you know going through it, they should reach out. Let's come together with a support group so we can encourage, one another. As I said, there are weeks being given away so that obviously people going through chemo, people you work with, we will want to do that, and let's just connect as a community and just build this amazing, fantastic community where we support, one another and help people, to be able to speak out, reach out. Churches, if you are in churches, Black churches, where you can have us come in and because what we're sharing is testimonies, of having been through it and here we are, standing. I'm always very-
hospitals?
I'm sorry.
Do you visit hospitals?
So that's another one,
we can-
as part of the thing.
Yeah, we can look into that.
So that we can look into it
Yeah,
here.
go to some of the hospitals.
Yes, and have something so that, we can share with people. So yes, so please, however, anyone can help in this. And also, I think we're gonna start that thing of putting together who can volunteer 1 day a month. I would just say 1 day a month, so it's not stressful to pick up patients. There was someone it was Mabel who told me about someone in London. They didn't have that service and she was struggling, but her husband had to go to work to be able to keep them because she's going for treatment. So she has to be paying to go to the hospital. So either in terms of even helping people finance that. So yeah, we do need donations, corporate organizations, or things that can help, on that, or whatever it is one can apply to. But this is real, this is a vision, this is something that we want to push. I don't know where it will go, but I just know that together we can do great things. And in closing, yeah, I'm always very particular about everyone's time. I'm gonna put the spouses here on the spot. So my husband is here and Phoebe's husband is here. As I said, amazingly, I got diagnosed as we're really close and she was, one of the ones supporting me and then she got diagnosed. This is where we are with this whole cancer thing, And as I said, people concentrate a lot on the person who is going through it, but if you just share in 2 minutes, I don't think the children will want to, if they want to. My son is here. What is the impact? Because I think also for people who you get a screening, you don't go for treatment and all that, it's actually not always just about you, but the impact on your family, your children, your spouse, your loved ones. So just in a minute or two, Mr. Aknala, that's encouraging him with. Just in terms of just saying impact, how, yeah, just whatever you want to say, really.
First of all, thank you for the platform. Thank you together. In terms of impact, I would like to break into two: short-term impact and long-term. The short-term impact has to do with disruption to the normal family life. You can imagine. It's like she said, everything still goes on, life still goes on, people still go on, school still run, kids have to go to school. So it's impact of treatment and everything on that whole side. But it was for her, for us, it was good to have a support system. If I look around to this room, I went to a lot of people that I know, and Michelle used to do school runs for us. Awesome. Treat yourself, used to bring people to the house. So that was awesome. That kind of reduced some of that short-term impact. Sure. But the bigger one is the long-term. Because it's what people don't see sometimes. Simple example is, I'm not seeing the grade. I saw that as a rebound. It's not something you should have done. What was midlife crisis. The result of coming out of that, we want him to correct. That's just a simple example. There's a lot more. Sometimes you just wake up, oh, I want to do it. It's from there. So it's having the understanding to kind of appreciate where she's coming from. Work with her to a certain extent, and at some point say, okay, no, certain you need to think about this. And that's an ongoing job. It's just something that you have to manage. So the long-term impact needs some sort of, needs patience, needs people around you, sometimes what's going on. Yeah, but at the end of the day, the support system, have the right people around you.
Thank you so much for that. The man has spoken, and I know some of those impulsive things that she does, but thank you so much, because the support thing is so key, and having that understanding, and it's not easy. It's not easy. Even some of those things she does, even me that I've been to, I'm like, whoa, what are you doing? It's not easy, but it's just, we have to learn just to be there. You know, sometimes, you know, even in grief, when they say you go, you don't know what to say. Sometimes it's just you go and you're just there. The fact that you're just there makes a difference. You know? And Mr. Aderoji, that's my husband.
So, well done.
Thank you.
I know what goes, you know, making this meeting nothing seamless. So I think I've done a lot has been said already. But for us, I think the situation was a little bit more serious for her emotionally, because within you know, within the same period when there comes she also lost her mom. She lost her brother. So it was a very tough period for her. So I think that, you know, I think for spouses, for me, I would say empathy and very important. You know, there will be, you know, there will be actions, reactions, or patterns of behavior which it deviates from what you know. Yeah, and it's important to you know, it's important to understand. It's important to be tolerant, be supportive. You know, there are times when you want to speak when you know you need to just silence and just support.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think for me that's, you know, just being effective providing support, because like several people have said, it's a lonely job. Nobody really understands the extent to which you know, the emotional impact. That's it.
Thank you, everyone. Any other last?
Also, in case of the financial support, Macmillan Uni, you know, we do financial support also. So if you come to us, you know, we do give support to kids who are struggling with finance, give you support. We also have a makeup now for our, you know, patients. And we have massage classes also for them. One massage, really massage, provide makeup. Yes, and wigs. To provide wigs in a better, you know, affordable wigs now.
Things are happening, so you might know loved ones who are struggling financially. Let them go to their local Macmillan.
We have a lot of support.
Hopefully, we'll bring in Macmillan in one of these events, you know, to talk about what there is. So I think on that note, said we'll finish. Yeah, I would like to. Yes, thank you so much. Really grateful. I'm so appreciated. If you know anyone going through this, please reach out to me. Nominate someone that we can give a week to. Today, we're going to present a week to a speaker. We did that last week. Yeah, get up. Pick up. Yeah, so if you have churches that will be coming to speak to, please reach out to me. If you have people going to the one person to support people, reach out to me. If you have medical personnel, someone you want to speak, someone who wants to share their story, but I think the more we see people who are surviving and keep sharing, it's encouraging people going to reach out to us. And if there is any topic also you want us to talk about, nutrition, we'll bring someone to talk about it. Even sex and cancer. We'll get someone. We also know people in that space. Mental health, we will be bringing in someone to talk about mental health. So if I did the topic, I think few people know it will be coming out either next month or the month after. This is a monthly event, the project we have. So please, we can't do this alone. We're all in it together. So we talk about nutrition, prevention, you want to say something?
It's always reach out to the people. You might think everything is okay. It doesn't work that way at all. Not just the partners that we have, but the family, the children. There's a lot on the children. Sometimes they don't want to talk, but there's a lot that we can do. But please keep reaching out to them. Not necessary to go, just reach out and just say, not just for when that immediate thing has happened. Even after that, that's when the journey begins. So please don't forget, reach out and see. Just wanted to share that.
And I think on this note, we'll just hear it. Thank you so much. You know, you take a full photography to all the mind. Yeah, and thank you, National Community Fund, for making this possible. See you guys next month. Invite people. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone on Zoom for being there. Thank you for your support. We are grateful to have you. Thank you. Bye. Can we take a picture for you? We can just stay here.